On today's episode, we finish up season 2 with a mailbag episode where our podcast team of Dr. Liz, myself, Rex, and Sarah answer some of the questions you've emailed in to us. We discuss the transition to parenthood and tips for managing the changes and challenges for both partners. We discuss mental health, navigating infertility, meeting each other's needs, and more in this last episode of season 2. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we hope you enjoy the show. And we look forward to launching season 3 on the first Monday in August. Hey friends, welcome to another episode of the Stronger Marriage Connection podcast. I'm Dr. Dave alongside Dr. Liz Hale, our licensed clinical psychologist and marriage family therapist. And for this episode, this Mailbag Monday episode, we brought in Sarah and Rex. They have their own perspectives, unique perspectives and experiences they'll be sharing with us today on today's episode. But first, we're just so grateful. We're grateful to you that you have discovered our podcast and hope you have found helpful, hopeful advice in this journey as you've listened. We hope that you'll subscribe, that you'll like, that you'll actually share the podcast with friends. Share it on social media so others can benefit from this as well. And just a heads up, this is the last episode of season 2, but we will be taking the month of July off. We'll be back in August, but we do have something exciting. I'm not going to give you too many details, but in July, for the month of July, we're launching something we've been working on for many, many months. And you're going to want to stay tuned for that. So we'll announce that on social media as well. So make sure you're following us on social media. All right, let's get right to it. First, a huge thanks for those who have been sending in questions. We love when our listeners send in questions. Please keep those coming. And here's how you can send in the questions. You send us an email at marriagecommission, all one word, marriagecommission @usu.edu. So keep sending in those questions. And occasionally we'll put together a mailbag episode like this. Okay, Liz, Rex, yes. Sarah, are you ready for today's question?
Yeah, do it. We wouldn't have a podcast without our viewers and listeners, right?
Oh,
so great. We're so grateful you're here with us.
So thankful. Yes. And if you're not aware, we do have a YouTube channel where we share this information as well. And the big surprises in July, we'll be sharing on YouTube. So make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Okay. We're going to be we'll see how many questions we get through. There's some great questions that have come in. And when I say great questions, these are some tough ones. Some of these are some really tough questions with not easy answers with some of these. So let's get right to it. You ready for this? Friends, here's the first question. It's a great one. This is it. How do I navigate newborns in the home? For example, and then in parentheses, husbands being put on the back burner, taking time to connect with each other outside of baby time, how to help the mom heal, mental health concerns for both partners, etc. So great questions, navigating the newborn years. Honestly, as I look back on that stage of life for us, outside of getting married and living together, I would have to say that adjusting to newborns was probably one of the biggest transitions for us. One of the biggest. It was an exciting time, but it was also exciting and exhausting at the same time. I just remember lack of sleep for both of us and schedules and you're crying. And when your baby's crying, you're waking up and there's only so much that I can do. And my wife's getting up. Then we have schedules and work and everything else to get used to. So here's a few thoughts. And really, I want to hear from from others, from you guys as well. So communication, prioritizing communication. You've got to be communicating through all these questions, right? It's so important to be on the same page and not to hold things in, because resentment and frustration, the stress and even anger, it can build up. And then this quiet resentment, this icy distance, and the silent treatment that happens, especially when you're lacking sleep, diet, exercise. When you get those out of whack, it really sends things through through an emotional roller coaster. So making sure that you're communicating. A couple more things that come to mind is making time making time for each other. In the beginning stages, that may only look like, hey, 30 minutes, let's go for a walk, or a babysitter comes, or parents come over and we go out to dinner, right? We even go to lunch, just finding some time, making each other a priority. Because I'm telling you, many husbands, I know I felt like this. I felt like I was on the back burner a little bit, honestly, just because so much of the time, the attention, the love, and this is so great. It was all on the baby. And then, when the baby went to bed, my wife went to bed too, because she was exhausted. And then it was me like, hey, you remember me? Yeah, your husband. And I did. I felt some of that, kind of left out on some of that, because obviously, right, I can't nurse a baby or anything. It was this wonderful time that she was having, but I almost felt left out in some at some points. And then, healing. Yes, there's the physical healing that's going to take place. The husbands, you have to be patient. Talking about intimacy, physical intimacy, emotional intimacy, working around that. There are other things that you can do, honestly, than sexual intercourse, because there's that time that you need to heal. So sexual intimacy, there's other things. There's things that you can do that to still feel like you are close. Self-care, making sure that you're taking care of yourself. You're eating, you're drinking, you're doing those things that can keep your body physically there. So those are at least some initial thoughts, but I'd love to hear, Liz, what do you think about this?
Well, I'm just so great. Yeah, I see a lot, of course, because I see couples, and most of those couples have kiddos. And I have such respect for parents. I don't think there is a more important or harder job in the whole wide world. I'm really grateful that John and Julie Gottman have written about that, right? And have a program. And Baby Makes Three, and on the Gottman card deck, Bringing Baby Home. There's a free app, Gottman card deck, and there's 6 decks of cards, like on your roles as parents, different questions to ask each other. I want to brag a little bit about a niece and nephew who have a 6-month-old now. But I tell you, somebody asked me recently, do you like him? Do you like who she married? And I said, no, I love him. I love him because of the kind of man, husband and father he is. My niece wanted to do a natural birth. Don't ask me. I would never do that. And so she had a midwife, but the midwife didn't come till like the last moment. And I wasn't there, but according to my niece, she kept saying, where is she? But the husband, Tanner, he just stepped in. He was pushing on her back. Together they had that baby, is what I'm trying to say. Together they took that baby home, and together they picked up formula from the hospital that was donated because milk didn't come in and things didn't work, and frustration and feeding through a straw. And he was right there with her at every feeding and took turns changing. That's the kind of coordination, I suppose, that I would wish for every couple, is that they have 2 really devoted parents who are in it for the long haul and in it 100%. Seems to make all the difference, Dave.
Yeah, well said.
And Rex, you've had 4 kids. Sarah's had 5 daughters. Tell us, Rex, what were your thoughts about bringing baby home?
Well, I'm like that you mentioned that your niece that had the baby naturally, and probably at home.
No, in a hospital.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All 4 of ours were born at our home in Florida when we lived there. And it was an incredible experience. I would recommend it, but it's not for everybody, especially if you have any complications, definitely go to a hospital. But I was much more involved because it was at home, and the midwife, I almost felt like the midwife was there more to help me help my wife than she was to help my wife. But
interesting.
It definitely helped the experience be more connecting that way, and knowing how to hold my wife and help her going through what she was going through. So that was a really beautiful experience.
My goodness. I don't think I knew that about you. That's very
cool. Well, there you go. It was, I got to see all of it too, which I was very worried about beforehand. But when you're going through the emotion of that moment, it is so beautiful. Even all the little bits and things. Yeah, it's not that bad. So don't be afraid of that. I like what Dave said, is really communicate and be vulnerable and kind of let each other know what's going on and what you need. Big advice I would say is be ready. Have lots and lots of newborn diapers ready to go before that baby gets there. After our first child, we learned with the second one, I think I had 6 or 7 boxes of newborn Pampers just ready to go when we had our newborn. And I had everything kind of ready so that I could really help my wife go through that recovery phase and really be there for the baby, but also kind of help herself heal and go through everything. Be ready for not a lot of sleep. That is going to happen. So I think just being mentally ready, like, okay, there's not going to be a lot of sleep. I think that can help not be as aggravated by lack of sleep. Have a lot of grace for your wife and your newborn. There's going to be lots of crying from your new baby, and you're going to need lots
from
of
both
attention.
of them. Huh?
Yeah, and your wife's going to need a lot of grace too, because she's going to be going through a lot of stuff. And I like that Dave mentioned, be patient with intimacy. The one thing that I thought was interesting with each baby was how each one affected my wife differently in that kind of area where, like, what was more sensitive or less sensitive before and after was different, and there was changes that were surprising to me. So I want people to know, men to be aware of that. When that happens, there's going to be some differences. Things usually go back to normal within 3 to 6 months. I mean, maybe a year. So that's something to be aware of. Let me see. What else did I say? Embrace all of it. As funny as it may sound, there will be funny moments when you're changing a diaper. I'm sure we've all been there when there's blowouts, or you go to take off a diaper and they just decide to pee right then. So embrace those because they can be funny. Or feeding, or just playing with your baby. Embrace all of it and cherish it because it's a very limited time. So make those memories. And I think that's all I have to say about that. Do you have anything, Sarah, to add?
Yeah, well, I love
5 daughters, Sarah, right? 5 girls.
I do.
Oh,
I have
goodness.
5 daughters, and I love it because I don't have any sisters actually. So it was fun to have girls around me for once. But what I was thinking about, actually, Liz, I love that you brought up the Gottman's Bringing Baby Home program. If someone is having a newborn in the home, I really recommend looking into that program. I'm a Bringing Baby Home educator. And so I was just thinking of a couple of things from that program. And one thing came to mind that I would actually talk about is they recommend having a stress reducing conversation is what they call it. And you set aside each day, it doesn't have to be long, but just maybe like 10 minutes or something, where you just sit and you listen to each other and say, tell me about the stressful part of your day. And you just allow the other person to just share that. And it goes both ways. And that stress reducing conversation really helps to just get it out so that you can be more patient with each other. And because it's one of the hardest transitions that a couple goes through. So I love that. And then I just, from personal experience, when Rex was talking about, there are changes that the woman goes through. So having 5 children, it was interesting to me how each one was different. The postpartum experience for me, each one was very different. And some were not that big of a deal and some were a really big deal. And we can maybe get into that a little bit more later when we talk about mental illness with another question. But I do love that both Dave and Rex talked about being there for their wives. That's really important. I think just being there for each other, just noticing that this is a hard transition that we're going to go through together. And as you go through life, there's going to be things that come in and complicate. And it's a chance to learn how to come together because it can draw you closer and be a beautiful time.
I like you said this one time, Sarah. It's beautiful and chaotic, or it's a wonderful time and also a very stressful and
Yeah.
So be ready for that.
It is. It's a paradox because it is such a beautiful time and it is very disruptive to what you were used to before. So, but I was actually talking to one of my daughters yesterday that just had a baby. Well, not just, he's about to turn 1, but she was saying she was nervous to have complications. And we were talking about it is hard, but it also really does draw you together as a couple. And I love that. So it's about managing or learning how to manage things that come up. And Dave and Liz, you guys, I'm sure, see this and talk about it all the time, that it's really about communication and learning how to come together during those times that are difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And with all of this principle comes to mind that I've been thinking about quite a bit. I may have mentioned on a previous episode, but it's feeling frustrated. It's possible, right? This is our goal. For me, it's a lifetime goal, is to feel frustrated, feel stressful, to feel even resentful, even angry, to feel all that. Those are natural feelings, but then still be kind. And I think that is a challenge with this and with any of the other questions. It's natural, to feel overwhelmed and tired and upset about something and still be kind. That's what we're aiming for, is still, right, stay in control of those emotions.
We'll be right back after this brief message. And we're back. Well, let's dive right in.
Let's jump to another one. This is somewhat related on the flip end, on the other side of this, and that is, how do you navigate infertility as a married couple? This one is, again, another big challenge, a real big, serious challenge for many people. I know people, I'm close to people who are experiencing this. I have a sister who's had to adopt a couple of children, was not able to have biological children. So this one can be very difficult, seeing everyone and having people ask you questions. Oh, so when you're having a baby, oh, you've been married for a while, and having that pressure sometimes from others and just assuming, that you're putting this off. But this can be difficult. It can be very challenging. To my wife and I.
I would use the word heartbreaking, crushing.
Oh, heart crushing. And I think allowing yourself to mourn, right? No one expects this to happen. It took my wife and I some time for us to get pregnant. We wanted to for many months. Finally got to the point where she had some treatments. I had to, this is going to get a little graphic here. Sorry, honey. I had to give her injections in her rear end, a shot. And I am deathly afraid of shots. I had to do that every single night for weeks.
Good man, Dave. You are.
It was so difficult. It was challenging.
Those are the couples who do well, though, are those who are in it together.
Yes.
Right? They go to the appointments together. They're doing injections, hormones together. Oh, man. Good for you, too. So I think it proved to be successful.
It proved to be successful. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So researching, getting help, talking with doctors, every situation I think is going to be a little bit different. Is it something genetic? Is it him? Is it her? Is it both? So educating yourself and getting that support. And then I would even add one more thing, and that's support groups. There's great support groups out there, Facebook group supports or in-person group supports, but really relating to someone who knows, who's been there, who's felt that and experienced that can just be very validating, I would think, for people who have experienced that. So not holding all that in and not scrolling through on Instagram and seeing people posting with their newborn pictures and getting angry or depressed, but really turning outward, doing what you can and making sure that you're talking with others, especially seeking out professional help and guidance where needed. Liz, what do you think on this one? This is tough.
It's hard to make peace with things that just don't make sense, right? And sometimes doctors don't have the answers. I just so admire parents. What I love about parents who seek trying to have children is that they want them. I just think of something so beautiful about wanting them. Not that I'm not criticizing anyone who doesn't. I think it's lovely to know, but just the seeking, and we would do anything to have a family of our own. I just think that's just so beautiful. But again, doing it together, and before anybody else comes into your fold, it's the two of you, right? You have maybe a fold because of the two of you came together, but that was phase one, and the most important phase is us, you and me, and then come what may. Right? We're going to enjoy and we're going to make peace with either having a dozen children, adopting, or just having it be you and me. It is odd not to have children. I will admit, because I'm married later in life, it does feel so strange. Like sometimes I was just thinking recently, it's just probably morbid, but just my honest truth. It's like, okay, so if anything should, gosh forbid, ever happen to my husband, Ben, like where would I go? I know I have extended family, beautiful family. most people go kind of towards where their children are, right? And I'm not quite sure where I'd go. Would I stay in Utah? Would I go back to Seattle? Well, what would I do? So this was interesting, so I can really understand those where life has not gone the way you thought it would. It's painful. I was even mentioning something. You mentioned a sister adopting, and I used to work with the Adoption Foundation, and I heard from a mother. I was at a Mother's Day brunch with adoptive mothers and birth mothers, and it was beautiful. And this one adoptive mother said, and it struck me because I didn't realize I'd still feel the grieving, is like, even though I'm so blessed to have 3 sons through adoption, there is still that part of me that still grieves not having my own children. I didn't get to hear my husband say, wow, bragging to other people, wow, she did so well through labor. I was so proud of her. She was so bold and brave. And it really struck me. It's like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. It just helped me appreciate the sensitivity of what different people are going through. And we all experience life differently, or motherhood differently, or not being mothers differently. Or parents, I should say. Yeah. Either of you, Rex, Sarah, infertility, any thoughts?
No, we were fertile myrtle turtles. Jesse and I, like, one and done kind of thing. You ready? Oh, sure, let's do it. So we didn't have any issues there.
You're blessed.
But, I really appreciate what you said, Liz. Just kind of from your own viewpoint and thinking about that was beautiful and very vulnerable. Awesome for sharing that. I really do agree with Dave, and both of you guys both said something I thought was really, really profound and helpful here is, Dave says, allow yourself the grace to mourn and grieve if you can't go through that, because you deserve that. You wanted something really badly and maybe it's not happening, and, mourn it, grieve it, and, accept it, and then, do what you can. And I like that Liz says, kind of what Bill Doherty stresses a lot in his approach to marriage therapy is maintain your commitment, be there for each other as best you can. Your commitment to each other is very important. It's the foundation of the relationship, and you're going to need each other to make it through this, and find, a happy compromise or whatever it may be. That's the best thing I can say to that. Sarah?
Yeah, I can't relate directly to infertility, but I really love, Dave and Liz, how you brought up, Dave, I loved how you talked about a support group. And I think I was thinking about a time in my life where I felt really shattered and things didn't go how I thought they would. And I think that is a common feeling that I can relate to. I went through a divorce, and I never thought that would be part of my life. And it really felt, like you said, Liz, it felt heart shattering. And I went through that feeling of loss. And so I guess for the person asking this question, my heart goes out to the pain that can be happening. That really is hard and heartbreaking. And I love what Dave said about a support group. I think that's really, that helped me significantly when I went through a life experience that looked different and was a loss. It really was a loss. And then, as Rex and Liz have both said, just allowing that grief process to happen, that's very healing. And you can do that together as a couple. But you guys both have that in common. And you can use that to draw together and to, just use it to heal together and allow that grief, and then just look at, what's coming next. What can we move forward or look forward towards?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tough challenge. I might add one more thing that came to mind. The title of our podcast, Stronger Marriage Connection, and what challenges and stress and struggles will often do is put a wedge, or they can, in your marriage connection, the connection of feeling close, because then when there's stress and then I'm irritable, but making your relationship a priority, it can divide you or bring you closer together. But doing those still like romantic gestures, right? We're holding hands, we're finding ways. It's a 30-second hug, the little kisses, the snuggles. Those kinds of things are still very, very important. And I may not be in the mood, and we're going up and down, and you almost have to kind of push yourselves to be like, hey, no, we're going to do movie night. We're going to be date night, even though we're really struggling right now. And of course, every couple is different. But what I'm saying, the principle is that lack of attention leads to loss of connection. You've got to be paying attention, giving each other those little small, even micro moments of connection, or it will drive you apart.
That's so well said. You know, if I left life up to my feelings, I wouldn't do much. I wouldn't get up till noon. You know, I probably wouldn't go out on a date very often. I mean, it takes some effort and some energy. So do it anyway, right? Make that plan and stick to it, regardless of how you feel. Feelings have no IQ.
Liz, I don't believe that you would not be getting up till noon. I do not believe that.
Oh, some days. That sounds good.
I agree, though, Dave, that attention is really the key to connection. Even little micro attentions are definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, we need those deposits.
Well
yeah, through the challenges.
Small, it's like, I'm sorry, it goes back to our mantra, right? Small things often.
Small things often. You're right, Liz. Yep, that's exactly it.
We'll be right back after this brief message. And we're back. Well, let's dive right in.
So what's the next question, Dave?
Yeah, these are great questions. Here's another one. How do you navigate illness and disease as a married couple? And then it's very related. How do couples recognize mental illness if present in their partner? So maybe we can kind of take this. It's physical illness, mental illness, but illness and health challenges, I would say, are going to creep in to probably every relationship. Every relationship is going to experience something. Some of it is maybe expected, but I would say most of this is unexpected. We didn't see this coming, and there will be a health challenge, mental health challenge, illness that comes. Thoughts on this one? I'd love to hear your perspectives.
Gosh, would you mind if I go first, Liz?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree that it's usually not expected. And how do you deal with that? Sometimes, something I've learned in life is sometimes what we consider a chastisement can be a blessing and can really refine us and make us truly who we are at our core. Above all, though, if it can be really challenging to handle these situations where a loved one may be suffering an illness or going through something. I would say, again, honor your commitment and just really be there for your partner, because they need the comfort and that stability to know that you're there and they're not alone and they can make it through this. It's what they're going through is not on purpose, so just be there for them. This is really where too a community of family and friends can really be an incredible resource. And the first place I say would be to find that is probably a church. But if you can't go to a church where that's not your thing, there are, Dave, you mentioned online communities earlier. I shot a documentary years ago about a family who had a child with a very rare disease. And a lot of the things that the mother had to deal with that until she found some really good Facebook communities where this disease that her child had was very, very rare. And there was actually a community online that she could connect with that really helped her find financial aid and health experts and all kinds of things. And she could connect with all the people in that group. And that really, really, really helped a lot. Just for the care and just in her mental well-being and handling all that. And I cannot stress the importance of a network enough. I mean, it really, really makes a huge difference. I've heard once, I love this saying, one horse can pull 10,000 pounds on its own. Two horses can pull 40,000 pounds. And just imagine what a community can do if you connect with a community,
I love that. What a couple can do, right? What a couple can do. Pulling
just
together.
A couple.
That's beautiful.
Or a community, whatever it is.
Right.
Don't be afraid to look for help and find resources too. Like, we all can't do it on our own. And we can do way more when we're connected to our partner and other people.
Nice.
Sarah, did you have any, or Liz, did you have anything to say about?
No, I think that's beautiful. I think self-care is crucial. Depending on whichever partner you are, right? The one that's suffering with a mental illness or physical illness, or the one who is supporting that person. I had a couple recently in my office, and coming off a really difficult, he had a manic episode. They were out of the country at a resort, and they were actually with other family members. But the resort manager came and had a discussion with them and just said, if by this time this man that was having the manic episode was at another part of the resort, he goes, if you don't bring him back and quarantine him here and stop kind of the craziness, you will all be asked to leave. He had offended people at a bar the night before. And so it was really pretty painful. And so here they are raw after this experience, leaving the resort, flying home. And, they both were very tearful. They both had felt very disappointed by the other's behavior. He felt that his partner really had left him, kind of abandoned him. She was angry with him and frustrated, understandably so, because she felt too that she couldn't depend on him, that he had abandoned her. She couldn't depend on him to be appropriate in this resort. So it's so painful. So if you can really take time to double down, dig underneath the pain, and find that you're both feeling very similarly. You're both feeling let down and unloved, unsupported. Take turns really listening to each other. There's a difference between taking care of someone and caring for them. We can care for them. We can't really take care of. It's really a very personal job, I think. It's a very soul job. I've got to take care of myself, but I would love to be cared for also.
I like that, Liz. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sarah, do you have thoughts? Dave?
Yeah, I could spend an entire hour on this one subject. I have a lot of personal experience with mental illness in our family. We have bipolar disorder. It's a hereditary thing, and it's in our family. So we've dealt with it personally. So the first thing that I will say, I think one of the questions, Dave, was how do you recognize it, or how do you know, right? So the first thing that I would speak to that is that it's you have to educate yourself. You don't know what you don't know. And so if that's something that you're concerned about, that you think could be going on, NAMI is a really great resource, the National Alliance of Mental
Illness
Institute or
mental illness. You got it.
Of course. Yeah. So NAMI, that's a great resource. And then just try to educate yourself and learn what are the different things to look out for. And then if you think that is something that's going on, talk to each other about it, So I'll be vulnerable here for a second and mention a personal experience. So when my fifth daughter was born, I was 40, and 4 months after she was born, I actually experienced a manic episode. And it was so severe that it put me in the hospital for about a week so that I could get stabilized and begin my recovery. And that's when I was diagnosed with bipolar. And that was a very traumatic experience for me, going through something like that. And it was also very traumatic for my husband as well, trying to navigate what are our lives going to look like? We have this newborn, and is my wife ever going to be the same? So that was a really hard thing, but we got help and we worked through it together, and it actually brought us closer together in the end. We learned how to communicate with each other, and I learned he was so just there for me in that time, and that was healing for me. So I guess just educating yourself, and then just you have to get help. It's not something that you can do on your own. So find a psychiatrist or a therapist or both, and work through it together. And then just as far as what to know, I can only speak to bipolar disorder. That's my experience. So a person whose brain is going manic is, very grandiose thoughts, a lot of energy, not much sleep. Those are definitely some red flags to look out for. And then on the depression side of it, because it goes manic, your brain goes manic and then goes depressive. It's just a lack of motivation. There's really no meaning to life. It may be hard to get out of bed. Those are definitely some signs of depression. But it's not something, I think we had mentioned earlier that you don't want to try to diagnose your partner. So, but if you notice those things, bring it up to them, have the conversation, and then get professional help. And the last thing that I'll say is that it's mental illness is a physical illness. Sometimes we say mental or physical, but it really is physical because it's not something to be ashamed about. I'm happy to talk about this because it's not something to be ashamed of. It's my brain is an organ in my body, just like my heart is. And if the heart is having problems, that's a physical thing. And it's the same thing with the brain. So you don't need to be ashamed. And it's just, an organ in your body is misfiring and you just got to get things squared away.
Mm. Oh, well said, Sarah. I love that we can talk about this and that it is mental health, physical health, that we can be open, that you can have these discussions, no shame in any of this. And so for those who ask the question, wondering about mental health, physical health, many times, I know it's a little bit stereotyped, but I know the research actually backs this up. Men are less likely to want to get help, to reach out to a doctor, whether it's physical, something's hurting or aching, or I'm not feeling well, less likely to reach out. And so I think men, particularly when it comes to those types of things, say, yeah, it's okay. It's okay to not be okay, to reach out, to get the help that you need, mental or physical health for sure.
How do you help? I think this was a question with people who may be suffering something like this, but are not, or are very reluctant, or even just dismissive of it. I know that it can be. It's a little hard to read the label on our own jar when we're inside the jar, So how can we help people like that? Is there any advice for that?
Yeah, I'm curious, Liz, on this one. The question says, this word for word, how do we help a spouse that does not want to seek for help when needed? Now, this is a little bit, we have, think about this broadly because it could be mental health, physical, it could be in our marriage. Is it true, Liz? I'm pretty sure that women are more likely to want, be willing to see a therapist than a man is. I think we mentioned this earlier, so we'll come back to this. Sarah, that you said, not being too quick to, I think it's great to look on the internet, but not being too quick to diagnose. My spouse, they're a narcissistic personality disorder, right? They're a narcissist, or going into this too much because we can get into trouble when you dive too deep. But educating ourselves, I'm all for, and say, okay, help me understand this, that maybe a doctor has diagnosed. Now I can educate myself about this. Liz, thoughts on someone doesn't want to receive help, what can you do?
It's so interesting. So I remember when my husband Ben had tachycardia. Do you remember that one day? I think I abandoned you on the podcast because we were in the ER. But the night before, when he had this episode, I begged him to go to the ER and he was just resistant. So what I did the next day was, he was willing to go to his doctor's office. So I thought, okay, I'm going to work with whatever he's willing to do. He's a grown man. I can't make him do anything. And so that was the helpful thing. It was to get his doctor on board, and his doctor is the one that told Ben, you need to go to the ER. I don't have what the ER has for you. That you likely need to get your heart shocked. So sometimes it's just being wise and finding out, okay, who's in our circle that can also, draw around us and help us. Some families have those interventions. I don't know as a whole how successful they are, but families have got to feel like they're doing something, right? Instead of just standing by watching somebody suffer. So get really creative of who else could I bring into this circle of love that would help my loved one get the help they need?
Can I say something to this? My husband is incredible at this. And so when I was diagnosed with bipolar, it was about 7, so I'm 48 now, so 8 years ago that we've been managing this. And I'm great. I'm in a place where I'm good, I'm stable, but every once in a while, there's a little bit of a dip and my brain will start to go manic. And now we know the signs to look for when I think that I'm going to conquer the world. We know that maybe something's happening here. But my husband does so well because it's really hard for me to realize, because it is hard to read your own label, as Rex said. I don't see it in the beginning. He usually sees it before I do. And the way that he approaches it for me is he just says, he listens to what I'm saying. And then he'll say, that seems a little exciting. Or like, he'll just kind of put it in a way that says, do you think maybe your brain might be going a little manic? And he does it in a very non-confrontational way. And I have to be humble enough to not, because there is a part of me that wants to get offended, but I have to sit back and just say, is it true what he's saying? But just the way that he does it. So for those who have a partner maybe that they're concerned about, I'll just say what I love about how my husband does it when the couple of times that it has happened is he does it in a loving way, but he brings it to my attention. And he just doesn't do it he doesn't attack my character. He just says, do you think maybe your brain might be going a little manic? Because, you think you're about to write a bestseller or something.
Yeah. Sarah, I love that. You mentioned humility on your part, the soft kind of startup, the way that he brings it up, even his tone, not accusatory and be like, no, that's really sounds like, but is a very gentle, a kind way of bringing about showing genuine concern, which I think that it's okay for a spouse to say, I'm kind of worried, or I'm concerned, or I love you so much and I'm worried and I would love it, to see a doctor, to see somebody, I'm willing to go with you, that type of a help. So
if you won't do this for you, will you please do this for me?
Oh, love it.
But I would feel I would love this. I would feel so much happier, so much more relieved. Please help me. Help me. So I love Sarah. You're not going to take on the world. You're just going to take on Maui. The island of Maui. Good for you and your husband.
Yeah.
That's great.
You get ready to move there. It's great.
Now you guys are all on board too. You guys all know you can help me out.
Yep. That's right. That's right. Here's another one. Let's see if we can tackle this one. How do you compromise when you feel like your needs aren't being met, but your partner thinks they're doing all they can? This one is really tough because, all right, this is just Dr. Dave's perspective. When I got married, I realized, marriage is not about me. It's not even necessarily about, hey, you need to meet my needs type of a thing. I was taught, and for me, it's an outward focus. Now, let me pause. This is assuming it's a healthy relationship, that there's not this power and control and abuse or manipulation, anything like that. Okay. So assuming it's a healthy relationship when both partners are turning outward and saying, what can I do to help her, to help him in this relationship? So I want to be sensitive to the question, right? Because yes, each person has needs. I would try to turn outward. I would bring that up. Honestly, a discussion. Let's have a discussion and just be open about it. We had a great episode. I think it was number 76. Monica Tanner talks about how getting your needs met. I think that's a great approach. You have to be sensitive with this. The timing of this, obviously, it's not midnight or when you're hungry or tired or any of those things that are going on. But having that conversation, I think, is important. Talking to each other about that. And, I loved it when, or I really love it when you do this, or I appreciate you do this. So you catch them, in the act of meeting those needs or helping out. It's dishes, it's kids, it's, emotional, sexual connection, whatever that is, talking to each other and say, I really loved that. I appreciated that. I'm so grateful when that. I would love for us to do more of that, date nights, whatever it is, to reinforce the good. No one wants to be blamed and saying, hey, you're not holding up. You say you're meeting my needs, but you don't even have a clue what my needs, any type of attack, it's not going to end well. It's not going to end well.
Yeah. It's not very magnetizing, is it?
No, not at all.
It's fairly repelling. And I'm all about trying to magnetize my husband to me. I love the pure desires you're talking about, Dave. I would love blank. I would love a clean kitchen. I would love new sandals for summer. I would love to go to Paris. It just kind of emoting them, right? All the things you would love. You're not telling your husband he needs to do that, or a child. You're just simply letting your heart be known of what would make you happy. The husbands usually, especially, and speak to this direction, usually really like that when they know what would make you happy. So I didn't marry so my needs would be met. But it's also, I think, kind of a cool thing to know, gosh, what does make my husband happy, or what would make my wife happy? So I think expressing those is really quite lovely. But we didn't get married to just meet the needs of somebody else or have our needs be met by them.
Yes. And Liz, let me ask you, okay, your thoughts on this, because again, a little bit gendered here, but I'm speaking for Dave. There are times when I'm not sure exactly what it is, either whether it's Mother's Day, it's birthday, or it's this need or that need or what she wants. And I think too often women will be like, well, you should know, what I need, or I shouldn't have to tell you what that is. But giving men, it could be women as well, some ideas, some concrete ideas of, yes, I love it. I appreciate when this is the types of things, because I may not be as perceptive when you're talking about things. I'm trying to do better and make mental note, actually physical notes on my phone.
You're not missing Mother's Day or her birthday, right? You're missing what to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what do I do? What to get or whatever for those things. So thoughts on Sarah, Liz, specifically on feeling like you have to tell your husband your needs or point out things.
Of course we need to. Of course we need to. Why would I not need to express my desires and my hopes and my dreams? Of course we need to. What I love about one of my dear friends, every Christmas is before Christmas, she takes a large stocking, right? They all have stockings. She takes her own and she fills it up. She fills her own. She fills it with magazines, her favorite candy, her favorite food. She puts a gift card in there for a massage. She loads her own stocking up. So on Christmas morning, she's really satisfied. And come what may the rest of the day, she's married to someone who's really not big into gifts. I think he's a great guy. It's just not his thing. She's just not disappointed because she's already kind of taken care of that. And I said, I think we need to all be a little bit more responsible in our own happiness. I just really do. So I think we need to speak up, especially if somebody says, what would you like to do for Mother's Day? It's like, you know what I would love? And you could suggest an item or two, and without the expectation you're even going to get it, right? But it's lovely to be considered and for someone to ask. So 100% accountability. I love that. I know I mentioned this to you all before, but just that mathematical equation, 1/2 plus 1/2 is usually 1 when we're single and looking for a partner. But what's 1/2 times 1/2? Because we're told to multiply and replenish the earth. 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. So as a couple, we're less than we ever were, even as 2 halves. So the whole goal is for each person to be a whole one, 100% responsible for ourselves. Sexually, socially, spiritually, morally, financially, medically, mentally. That's the goal. 1 times 1 is 1. We're still a whole couple.
Yeah, love that. Thanks, Liz.
For me, I think the original question was kind of how to deal with when you're not getting what you want.
Yeah, how do you compromise when you feel like your needs aren't being met, but your partner thinks they're doing all they can?
Yeah, for me, what I had to go through, what really helped me was just examining my feelings and then realizing what I was expecting and vocalizing it. Because I do fall into that trap of, why don't you just know what I want? Why don't you just know me? I wear my heart on my sleeve. Isn't it obvious? And no, it's not. So I had to accept that and be like, okay, really, what was I expecting? And a lot of times, if that issue has come up in the past, like, oh, we did this thing and I was expecting this response or this thing to happen, and then we can actually talk about it, and I can realize, oh, was it a good thing to expect that or a bad thing, or should I really expect that from you or not, or is it all the time? And that really helped me work through that for myself. And it also helped me ask my wife, okay, so what are you expecting for Mother's Day? Like, what would you like? Like, her thing is, I don't want to worry about anything. She wants everything off of her plate and just to be like, to plan the things she likes to do and to just kind of go along and be there and enjoy it and not have to worry about anything else. So learning that helped me a lot and took a lot of load off of me to help her have a great time on her Mother's Day or birthdays or anniversaries. And it helped me express what I was expecting rather than just expecting it. And
it's this whole idea of help me help you, right? Help me help you. Help me be successful with you.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yes.
Sarah.
No, yeah. Well, I was going to say that brings to my mind because it's not about the gift. It's about the expectation and the feeling seen and feeling valued and feeling heard, right? So there was a phrase that I really loved, and many of us have heard when you want to express a need, you begin with I, right? So I feel, but there was something that kind of added another piece. It was in the book, Nonviolent Communication. And what I loved is it brings it back around. So it goes like this. So you say, I feel when you, and that's the one that we've all heard. But the piece that he added into this was, because I think or feel. So you're bringing it back around to yourself again. So you're saying, I feel hurt when you don't give me a gift because I think, or because I make that mean. And then in that point, you're expressing what that meant to you that didn't happen. So you're taking back that ownership to yourself instead of, well, it's your fault because you didn't give me the gift. This is what I thought when you didn't give me the gift. And that's what really matters, right? It's like that expectation that we had. So you're sharing that vulnerability of, this was my expectation that wasn't met. I didn't feel seen. I didn't feel valued. So I feel when you, because I made that mean. I loved that phrase. It really helps me learn to communicate better to my spouse, that it was getting to the root of what it was really about.
Well, it's ownership, right? Yeah. I made that mean something bigger than it was intended. Yeah. I love the ownership. I love that part, Sarah. I think that is so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I wish we could go on and on about this one. We have more questions, and we're going to save them for another mailbox episode. So keep the questions coming. Again, Marriage Commission @usu.edu. So send us in your questions. We'd be happy to answer them or try to answer them and tackle them as a team here on the podcast. So thank you. Any last words, parting words?
This was an incredible discussion. I have a lot to take away from this. Looking forward to reviewing it again. And I really just appreciate this.
Ditto. Me too, Rex.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for tuning in, friends. We will see you next time on another episode of Stronger Marriage Connection.
And remember, it's the small things often that create a stronger marriage connection. Take really good care now. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us today. Hey, do us a favor and take a few minutes to subscribe to our podcast and the Utah Marriage Commission YouTube channel, where you can watch this and every episode of the show. When you hit the like button and leave a comment, your feedback helps us improve the show. And don't forget to share this episode with a friend. You can also follow and connect with us on Instagram @Stronger Marriage Life and on Facebook @Stronger Marriage. Be sure to share with us what topics you want us to explore or what you loved about today's episode. If you want even more resources to improve your relationship connection, visit our website at strongermarriage.org, where you'll find free workshops, webinars, relationship surveys, and more. Each episode of Stronger Marriage Connection is hosted and sponsored by the Utah Marriage Commission at Utah State University. And finally, a big thanks to our producers Rex Polanis and Alexis Alcott and the team at Utah State University. And you, our audience. You make this show possible. The opinions, findings, conclusions, and recommendations expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the views of the Utah Marriage Commission